teman-teman untuk kembali berada di tempat semula. Silakan Bapak Ibu untuk dapat mengambil tempatnya kembali, karena kita akan kembali melanjutkan sesi plenary session 1. Dengan tema The Future of Zakat, Strategic Design, Governance, and Global Resilience. Rombongannya masih ramai di luar. Nunggu rombongannya selesai. Ladies and gentlemen, we now move to plenary session 1. The future of Zakat, Strategic Design, Governance, and Global Resilience. The objective of this session is to design a framework to strengthening the vision of Indonesian Zakat for the future. To guide us through this important session, I'm pleased to invite our moderator, Professor, Head of the Doctoral Program in Islamic Banking, UIN Syarif Hidayatullah, Jakarta, Professor Nur Hidayah, SAG, SE, MA, MA, PhD, to join us on the stage. Please welcome her with a round of applause. Cek satu. Cek satu.
Ya. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'du, rabbi shrahli sadri wa yassirli amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Distinguished guests, esteemed scholars, international experts, colleague and friend, a very welcome to the second day of the 9th International Conference on Zakat, BAZNAS 2025. It is an honor for me, Prof. Nur Hidayah, Professor at the Faculty of Economic and Business and the Head of the Doctoral Program of Islamic Banking at UIN Syarif Hidayatullah, Jakarta, to moderate this important plenary session. Today's plenary carries a highly strategic theme, the future of Zakat, strategic design, governance, and global resilience. This session is not just a scholarly conversation, it is a forward defined by volatility, technological acceleration, geopolitical shift, and rising expectation for accountability and impact. Our objective is to design a stronger, more resilient vision for Indonesian Zakat and global Zakat, aligned with global best practices and maqasid-oriented governance. We are privileged to have with us 5 distinguished thought leaders from Malaysia, Indonesia, and Australia, whose expertise spans governance reform, Islamic economics, fiscal policy, Islamic social finance ecosystem, and sustainable national development. Allow me to introduce our speaker as we begin this journey of idea. Speaker 1, Mr. Kamarul Zaman bin Omar, Head of Corporate Strategy, Lembaga Zakat Selangor, Malaysia. He will deliver a presentation entitled Institutional Innovation and Governance Reform, Strengthening Zakat Resilient Beyond Distribution Model. Please welcome Mr. Kamarul Zaman bin Omar. Assalamualaikum, Prof. Please have a seat. Yeah. Thank you. Speaker 2, Professor Abdul Ghaffar Ismail, Professor of Islamic Economics at the University Kebangsaan Malaysia. His topic today is highly foundational for the future, integrating maqasid Sharia in the future design of zakat governance. Please welcome Prof. Abdul Ghaffar Ismail. Yeah, please, thank you. Thank you, Prof. Okay. Our third speaker, Dr. Anas Iqtaid, Senior Lecturer in the Political Economy and Global Development, Australian National University. He will speak on philanthropy as a catalyst for broad-based national and global resilience. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Anas Iqtaid. Okay, our fourth speaker is Prof. Didik J. Rahbini, MSc, PhD, founder of INDEF and director of Paramadina University. His presentation is entitled Zakat as a Catalyst for Inclusive and Sustainable Economic Growth. We are honored to welcome Prof. Didik J. Rahbini. And then, last but not least, our fifth speaker, Dr. Sultan Emir Hidayat, PhD, the Director of Islamic Economy Supporting Ecosystem KNIKS. His presentation is entitled Integrating Zakat Within the National Sharia Economic Ecosystem. Please welcome Dr. Sultan Emir Hidayat. Okay, since this is a very tight schedule, and please welcome our first speaker, Mr. Kamaruzzaman bin Omar. We have 15 minutes for your presentation. Time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in amma ba'du. Honorable Chair of BAZNAS, RI Prof. Dr. K.H. Nur Ahmad, Dean of UIN Sharif Hidayatullah Jakarta, Professor Dr. Ibn Qizam, Rector UIN Sharif Hidayatullah Jakarta, Professor Asif Saipuddin Jahar, distinguished guests, respected scholars, fellow speakers, and all delegates of ICONZ. It is truly an honor for me to speak here at the 9th International Conference on Zakat, or ICONZ. Today, I would like to share how Zakat is changing from traditional charity or philanthropy into a global force of good. I will walk through a simple blueprint built on 3 pillars. First, on strategic design, robust governance, and global resilience. Next slide, please. For generations, Zakat has been mainly seen as a local philanthropy. But today, the world is different. Global Zakat potential is huge, between USD 200 billion and USD 1 trillion every year, based on studies by the World Bank and Islamic Development Bank, as well as studies by leading Zakat scholars. The lower estimate is around USD 200 million, which reflect what is realistically collectible today. The upper estimate of USD 1 trillion reflects the full potential if all eligible Muslims paid Zakat properly. Either way, the message is clear. Zakat is one of the world's most powerful development resources, still underutilized. If managed well, this is not just a philanthropy or charity, it becomes a serious tool for development. Let me give a simple comparison. The UNDP and World Bank says ending extreme global poverty will cost around USD 94 billion a year. But according to SIPRI, the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, the world spent about USD 2.7 trillion on weapons in 2024. So I'm just sharing this data just to give us some sort of perspective. In actual fact, we already have the money to end poverty many times over now. The issue is not money, the issue is priorities. Zakat, if modernized, can help realign those priorities. Next slide, please. So how do we modernize? We can use a simple blueprint with 3 pillars. Number 1, using a strategic design where we plan ahead using data. 2, building a robust governance, protecting trust, improving transparency and integrity. Thirdly, global resilience, helping the Ummah across the borders via a coordinated effort. So let me explain each one in practice. Next slide, please. The first pillar is strategic design. The traditional zakat often waits for people to come forward, which leads to missed case duplication or slow response. Strategic designs mean we can plan ahead, use data integration to see the real situation, true picture of ASNAF in terms of the total assistance that they're getting from the government, NGOs and others, as well as from the perspective of the zakat collected, how big is the potential pool of zakat that can be collected. Number 2, we use standardization, so decisions are consistent. Standardization means removing guesswork. For instance, a zakat officer or amil know exactly what documents are needed, what criteria to check, and what aid or assistance fits every unique ASNAF situation. We also use predictive analytics to spot poverty hotspots and anticipate needs during economic downturn and disasters. And we also align our programs with national goals so that Zakat does more than provide relief. Strategic alignment means making sure our Zakat programs support the larger goals of the country, not just our internal plans. It is also connecting our efforts to global aims, especially the UN SDG goals. In short, it helps solve long-term problems. Next slide. At LZS, or Lembaga Zakat Selangor, we are applying this. We are building a digital system linked to national databases, including with My Digital ID. This is a new national digital identification system introduced by the government of Malaysia. It is a secure online identity that allows Malaysians to verify who they are when using digital services. This gives us a clear, unified view of who needs help. We also use cashless disbursement, like e-wallets, for instance, so that aid reaches people faster and more transparently, especially useful for ASNAF who does not have access or being barred from access of the financial systems. We updated our Hadul Kifayah, which we benchmarked to match real living costs today, in particular in the state of Selangor. We use official national statistics, so our benchmark is accurate and fair. This ensures we don't undersupport families and we don't miss people who genuinely need help. It also makes our decision consistent and transparent, which means our aids or assistance given is fair, accurate, and meaningful. Next slide. Strategic design also shape what we invest in. We focus on human capital, giving out scholarships, improving skills and pathways to jobs. We also support entrepreneurs through grants and business training. And we promote digital inclusion, which we support gig workers, IT skills, and integrate them with the existing initiative like Smart Selangor opportunities. By the way, Smart Selangor is a State of Selangor Digital Transformation Program, which offers digital platforms for transport, payment, small businesses, and community services. We want ASNAF to be an active participant in the digital economy. This is how we help the ASNAF family live poverty and inshallah live poverty sustainably. Next slide. The second pillar is robust governance. As we know, Zakat is a trust or amanah. People must trust Zakat institution. There is no two ways about it. It is non-negotiable. So we emphasize on radical transparency, strong integrity systems, clear Sharia and financial oversights, and modern tools like blockchain for secure records. Trust, by the end of the day, must be earned and then protected every day. Next slide. In our 2026 strategic plan, one of the strategic themes is elevating trust. This means publishing transparent reports. We publish our annual report together with our sustainability report, using technology to monitor or reduce risks, exploring the use of AI analytics and blockchain technology, protecting whistleblowers, and tying management KPIs, key performance indicators, to resolve public and internal audit issues. At LZS, trust is not a slogan. It is the backbone of our organization, and we are working to build a system that protects that trust every day. Next slide. The third pillar is global resilience. The world faces borderless challenges, floods, climate change, pandemics, war, and displacement. Zakat must evolve to support people across borders, wherever they are. This requires partnership, coordination, shared responsibilities, and among Zakat institutions. Next slide. So from the relief to resilience, resilient means more than giving short-term aid. A powerful example comes from our host, BAZNAS of Republic Indonesia, where around 350,000 USD in Zakat funds were channeled as part of the blended finance project to build and revitalize micro-hydro plants that now power homes, schools, and clinics in Jambi for 4,000 people. This is Zakat as infrastructure. This is Zakat improving lives for many years, not just one day. Next slide. To strengthen global resilience, we must collaborate. The UNHCR Refugee Zakat Fund is a good model. It pools Zakat globally, support Syrian, Yemeni, and Rohingya refugees with full Sharia compliance. Through these partnerships, Zakat can reach places individual organizations cannot reach alone. Next slide. At LZS, we measure success by one clear outcome. How many people leave poverty permanently and eventually becoming Zakat payers themselves? We have our GROW programs that focus on identifying ASNAF who show strong potential to grow and eventually exit poverty. We identify them through carefully screening and using psychometric tests. These tests help us to understand their strengths, whether they are more inclined to become entrepreneurs, or whether they are better suited for salaried employment. This ensures we don't force anyone into the same model. We even match each person the path where they are most likely to succeed. So our GROW program gives mentorship, capital, and business support to help make this possible. Next slide. Our vision is a zakat of a zakat future zakat ecosystem, which is digitally integrated, globally harmonized, impact-driven, governed with excellence, and deeply rooted in Sharia. Modernization does not change the essence of zakat; it strengthens it. Next. The path forward to reach this vision, we must, one, foster dialogue in gatherings or platforms like this, ICONZ, or the World Zakat and Wakaf Forum and others. We must also build capacity in our people, training Zakat professionals in data analysis, project management, strategic planning, as this is as vital as investing in technology. We must also commit to continuous reform. The future will not happen by chance, it must be designed. Next slide. So Zakat as a beacon of prosperity, with strategic design, we honor the purpose of Zakat. With robust governance, we maintain trust. With global resilience, we uplift humanity. Zakat can become a major pillar of a fair and prosperous global society. Next slide. As a closure, one final reflection, the world has already enough wealth to end extreme poverty. This is not to mention Zakat alone, as the Honorable Minister of Religious Affairs mentioned just now. There are others, tools to combat poverty. The price to end extreme poverty is 94 billion US dollar a year, a small amount compared to what potential zakat can collect. The problem, like I mentioned before, it's not resources. The problem is alignment. May the Ummah, through platforms like this, will work together to become the first global community to align its wealth and its values and show what humanity is capable of. With that, I thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
For your presentations. He enlightened us by showing how Zakat institution might embrace innovations, better governance, data-driven strategy, and more accountable system, as well as partnership and collaboration, so that Zakat move beyond simple distribution and become a real driver of innovations and impact. Let's move to the second presenter, Professor Abdul Ghaffar Ismail, who will present the deemed integrating Maqasid Sharia in the future design of Zakat governments. 15 minutes, Prof, please, your turn.
Inshallah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin, wassalatu wassalamu ala asrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Thank you, Prof. Nurul, the moderator, fellow speakers, para guru-guru, participant of the 9th ICONZ. The title that been given to me is the Integrating Maqasid Sharia in the Future Design of Zakat Governance. I'm sure that you have the reason why you are attending this conference. And you have the reason why we are having lunch. Okay? And I'm sure that you have a reason why you want to perform your prayers. And you have the reason why you want to pay the zakat. Okay? So, what I'm trying to discuss today is we should have the reason on why we should have a good governance. Okay? So therefore, my talks will concentrate on how to integrate the Maqasid al-Sharia with the future design of zakat governance. So can we go to the next slide, please? If you look at on how the reason why we need to integrate, okay? Why do we need to integrate between the Maqasid Sharia and also the Zakat governance. I put there that it is crucial for ensuring Zakat moves beyond mere compliance, meaning that I pay Zakat because it is my obligation. But more than that is you want to achieve holistic objective that combine the socio-economics and also the spiritual objective. So how can we integrate that? Okay, not only the compliant, but also look at from the socio-economic and spiritual. And the integration for sure is involve redesigning the Zakat system. If you want to look into that perspective, so how can we redesign the Zakat system to prioritize public welfare, the maslahah, and sustainable impact on the beneficiaries or mustahiq in that perspective. Okay, can you go to the next slide? So the future design of the Zakat governance must shift from a traditional reactive disbursement model to a strategic, like mentioned by our brothers Kamruzaman, developmental model, and also that can become the anchor in 5 core maqasid al-Sharia. So here I use the protection instead of safeguarding, but the current thinkers about the maqasid Sharia, they use the preservation. So moving from safeguarding to protection or to preservation. Because I prefer to use preservation, but here in my slide I use the protection. Because the preservation is to safeguard and also to make it grow. For example, how can we protect the safeguard our wealth, but at the same time also we can make our wealth grow. Okay. So now we look at from each maqasid, the protection or preservation of faith or hifzuddin. Because the objective here is we want to move away from the spiritual obligation. This is our obligation, a must to pay zakat, that to enforce the faith of the community, but at the same time we also want to create a just economic system, as mentioned by our scholars Omar Chapra regarding how we want to achieve in Islamic economy is to achieve the just economic system. Okay, so what are the focus here in dealing with the protection or preservation of faith in relation to ethical auditing? So a governance should integrate ethical auditing. Okay, we must have the robust Sharia governance framework. Currently, we don't have that Sharia governance framework. Okay, to ensure that all collection, whether all collection compliant or not with the Sharia, investment, if in the case of it is permissible, and also in the distribution process, next slide please, are not only compliant but also reflect, okay, the spirit of Islamic justice. So that's why we want to have to create the Islamic economics which can achieve the justice. Okay, and then the educational outreach, because Zakat institutions should conduct public awareness campaign focusing on the wisdom. This morning we were reminded by the Qari about the Mujadalah, the chapter in Mujadalah about gaining the knowledge. Why we want to gain the knowledge? Because we want to focus on the wisdom. Because the wisdom is about how we gain the knowledge and we understood the knowledge. Okay, and then from there we can have the socio-economic model of Maqasid Sharia that can increase our voluntary compliance based on the taqwa. Because when you look at the governance, we want to look into the integrity and also trust, but here you want to create a trust in the system. So the governance will be looking for the trust in the zakat system, where the people can trust the institution and then they pay the zakat as a part of their taqwa. And then the next one is the protection of life or BAZNAS. Okay, so in this perspective, the governance integration should have to prioritize distribution to make sure that zakat funds are first and foremost used to secure public basic necessity in economic. We talk about the food, shelter, and also healthcare as the basic necessity. Or this is the element of the daruriyat for the poorest, especially for the poor and also masakin. And then how about the government should integrate with the productive zakat program? We should emphasize on the immediate, shouldn't emphasize on immediate consumption, but to a sustainable empowerment program. Okay, microfinance, vocational training, or business capital. So we have the program in Malaysia where the combination of waqf and also zakat be combined, waqf as a capital of a business, and then zakat be used as a working capital to transform mustahik into self-sufficient producers and potentially become the zakat payers. And then again, as mentioned by Brother Kamal Zaman, data-driven targeting is one of the way to protect the life. Employ artificial intelligence and advanced analytical for real-time needs to assess and also to personalize and probably to make sure that an effective disbursement and mitigating any inefficiency in delivering of the zakat fund. And then the third one is the preservation of intellect. This is very important for us in the governance. How can we integrate the governance with the intellect? Okay, especially in promoting knowledge, skill acquisition, and a sound decision making among beneficiaries and administrators. So we need to look into how the governance should focus and should integrate with the education sponsorship. Okay, strategically allocate zakat fund to educational and training program that you keep the poor with the high demand skill, not low demand skill. This is I want to stress on the with demand skill, because with the high demand skill we can give them the skill that is required to upgrade their skill, and then at the same time that they can also enhance their potential earning, so they can become to be a rich person and can become the potential zakat payers in the futures. Okay, and then the next one is competency building. So professional development for zakat institution staff, especially, particularly in modern management, finance, data science, because currently in many organizations, they also require data science person to look into that as one of the competency for the staff. Okay, and of course, zakat or zakat to ensure professional and intellectual governance. And then the next one is on protection of progeny or family or BAZNAS. Okay, and the focus should look into family support system initiative. Okay, plan programs that support family stability on matters such as counseling or educational support for children. Initiative focus on youth development and also empowerment. And the last one is about the gender inclusive policy. Although we don't want to differentiate between male and female, but normally when we are talking about the marginalized group, among the marginalized group in the economy is the woman and also female who become the head of the family. So we should recognize their role in safeguarding the family. And the next one is the protection of wealth. Okay, this is the final one where we can ensure that efficient, transparent, effective collection and management of zakat fund. And then the focus of the governance integration should look into the transparency and accountability. So we may use the current technology like blockchain to create a mutable ledger for all zakat transactions, from collection to final distribution, maximization, public trust. And then the next one is the focus integration. The focus of the integration, it should be looking at the centralized database. Develop a unified, a digital zakat core principle. This is what we developed when I was with IDB. We developed this zakat core principle with Bank Indonesia, And of course, Dr. Emir is one of them, looking at this Zakat core principle compliant, okay? Database, why? To prevent fraud, ensure funds reach the intended beneficiaries without duplication, and also facilitate cross-border coordination, like mentioned by Brother Kamaruzaman. On the global perspective, you need to look into that cross-border coordination. And the next one is the performance metric. Because when I was in with IDB, we also developed the Maqasid Syariah Performance Index. Okay, this is like the Maqasid Index to make sure that the institution, the Zakat institution, success not just by the amount that you collect. For example, in Selangor, 1.5 billion. We collect 1.5 billion. It's about more than half of the state budget. Okay, you can imagine the Zakat collection is more than half of the state budget. So it is not only we are talking about the Zakat amount that we collect, but what is actually the impact to the Mustahiq life. Okay, specifically their transition from recipient to become the donor. So this is very crucial that we can create the Maqasid-based performance index. Okay, so the next is, yes, challenge, we need to integrate, but the challenge is on the ambiguity, conceptual ambiguity. Whether we understood or not the concept of Maqasid Sharia. Do we have knowledge of the Maqasid Sharia? So we can ask your staff whether you know that the Maqasid Sharia. Even today, why you want to get married? Don't have the answer. What the Maqasid Sharia of marriage? See? What the Maqasid Sharia of you having lunch, for example. So this is conceptually, you should understand that what is Maqasid Sharia, not only among the administrators, scholars, but also we want to create that the difference between the Daruriyat and also Hajiyat and Taksiniyat. Even Bank Negara, also Malaysia, also introduced a guideline, policy document on what is Daruriyat, what is Hajiyat. For example, let's say I'm having a takaful business, for example, and I share my system with the conventional. Whether it is daruriyat for me to use the system owned by the conventional, because it is owned, or I am the takaful business, but my sister's company is insurance company. Can I share my system with the sister's company? Because I share with the sister's company who is doing the non-halal business. Okay, so this is again on how can we differentiate between the daruri and also the hajiyat. Regulatory fragmentation, lack of standardized regulatory framework. Again, when I was in IDB also, we want to have the standard setting body for Zakat institution in the world, like Islamic Financial Services Board. But due to some political reason, some country want to be their institution to be parked in Indonesia. Some want to be, that institution want to be parked in Turkey, but finally, it's go anywhere. You don't, vanish. Okay, maybe he went to the sea or to the ocean. Okay, and then the next one is the last slide is measuring impact, difficulty in quantifying the spiritual and social objective. So this is the role of the scholars. How can we measure the spiritual and also social objective of Maqasid Sharia? Using the conventional financial metric, and then we develop on the specific, on the zakat-centric indices. Okay, and last one is the recipient motivation, because challenges is truly motivated mustahiq who will be utilized product zakat aid to become self-reliant and requiring rigorous pre-selection and continuous monitoring. So then from there, I would conclude that in order to address those challenges, future zakat governance must prioritize governance harmonization, technological adoption, and professionalization of zakat administration based on a holistic Maqasid Sharia performance framework. So we need to develop the Maqasid Sharia performance framework in relation to the zakat governance. Wallahu alam. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Prof. Abdul Ghaffar Ismail, for inspiring us in how to integrate the 5 principles of Maqasid Syariah, Hibzuddin, Hibzun Nafas, Hibzul Akal, Hibzun Nasl, and Hibzul Mal in developing zakat institution and practice. Thank you, Prof, for the insightful speaking. And then next, our speaker is Prof. Didik J. Rahbini, the rector of Paramadina University and the founder of INDEF. He will deliver the Zakat as a catalyst for inclusive and sustainable economic growth. 15 minutes, Prof, please, your time.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ya. Rabbi shrahli sodri wa yassirli amri wa hlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Prof. Nurul, thank you very much giving me opportunities to present this. Yeah. My expertise actually political economy. Then I would like to observe, analyze this zakat phenomena in Indonesia from the political economic perspective. Maybe that will be a little bit different from other resource person. Next, yeah. Do you know that income per capita of Indonesia is half as compared to Malaysia? But in terms of size of the economy, Indonesia the 15th largest economy in the world. Indonesia is the 15th largest and member of G20. Our per capita income, the whole Indonesia is $5,000 per capita per year. But if you cut Jakarta from here to East Jakarta and then North and then going to Ancol and West Jakarta, the income will be, the income is $35,000 per capita. It is 700% as compared the average of the people. Yeah? So this is to compare the inequality between Jakarta and outside Jakarta. If you cut only in the center of Jakarta, the income per capita much higher than the whole countries in Europe. Because in the central of Jakarta, the income per capita is $70,000 per capita. Even much larger than US. You can imagine that? So this is the reality and the background of Indonesia. So I think zakat, social security, yeah, health insurance and so on, very much important in Indonesia. Next. Next, yeah. So to fulfill the inclusive growth, yeah, growth benefiting for all, reducing inequality. I explained you inequality, you know, $70,000 as compared to 5,000, or even $1,000 in Papua. So this is a reality in Indonesia. That's why any approach, zakat, social insurance, and so on, very much important in Indonesia. Yeah. So to fulfill the inclusive economic growth, yeah, is it possible for zakat system to have such this role? Yeah. To answer, we must know the social life in Indonesia. So we have a different side, different dimension of GDP, income per capita. As Minister Nasaruddin, he is the founder of Paramadina University, where I am now rector. Indonesia is from the Harvard study, Indonesia is the highest level of the flourishing countries in the world. Okay, how can we answer that? Next year. Next year. Next, yeah, next. Next, yeah, okay. This is the instrument, political economic instrument, to observe where is zakat. where is economy in the as whole. Yeah? To mobilize economic resource, yeah, theoretically, this is perspective from James Buchanan, Nobel Prize winners economic. Yeah, I think in Indonesia or Malaysia, maybe 100 years will never, I don't know, get that Nobel Prize in economy. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, you know, to mobilize economic resource like zakat, this mobilizing resource, right, through BAZNAS. Yeah. To mobilize resource, we have the market system. The market. Market is sunatullah, yeah. Market is the spontaneous order in the world, spontaneous economic order. For example, from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock after we finish, there are maybe 1 billion transactions without a command from the state, without command from father, from mother. We are making transaction, billion of transaction. In the case of Indonesia, the result of the market, yeah, production in agriculture, in industry, in services, and so on, we have our GDP is 22,000 trillion rupiah, or in terms of US dollar, maybe 1,500 billion US dollar. Okay? And the second, if we want to mobilize economy, yeah, governments. So we have the result of the taxation in Indonesia. Our budget at present about 3,600 trillion rupiah. Yeah. And then zakat is the third component. Zakat is derivative, or maybe not derivative. I don't know. How can you observe this? Altruism is a mechanism. I don't know. It is transaction or organizing or mobilization of economic resource through the value share. What do you call it? Share the value of the religion and so on and so on. Yeah, altruistic. For example, if you want to get donation, ICE donation, you cannot pay in the market. We cannot catch the children, yeah, in somewhere, and then we take the ICE and then we put in the market. No, yeah, this is through altruistic system. Yeah, so zakat is there. I think this is next year. Next year. Next slide. Okay. So what I mentioned before, the market and then the governance, yeah, and then the zakat, yeah. Minister of Religion, Pak Prof. Nazar Umar, mentioned, and we know this number, 327 trillion rupiah is the potential. But economically, Professor Rohmin Dahuri, it's Minister of Fisheries, he always mentioned in the television, yeah, our fisheries resource is 33 billion US dollar, but under the sea. That means zero. And the economic term means zero. Yeah. So our potential and then our realization only 7 and 8%. So this is through altruistic mechanism. But the government, yeah, we already have 3,600. Yeah. Okay, next. So how can we observe altruistic and zakat system in Indonesia? I want to introduce you to the Harvard study, yeah, about the survey comprised 200,000 respondents with Gallup. Yeah, Gallup is the largest polling center. Yeah, so Indonesia ranked as the highest flourishing country. Yeah, what is the reason? Yeah, the next. Yeah, what is the reason behind the GDP? We have a strong social coordination. Yeah, we have a strong coordination social protection, family protection. If you are in US, you have no families, and then you have no security, social security, you are finished. But in Indonesia, you have formal security system, what we call BPJS. Apa BPJS itu? Ya, health insurance. We have also social insurance from the society, from the family. So triple. Yeah, you know, like me and my wife. You know, my mother and my home. So we give a very very special treatment for our mother, our parents. Yeah, in the home, at home. What does he want? What does she want? We will give everything for him, for her. Yeah. So this is the highest social and family protection in Indonesia. That's why this policy, I think, next, yeah? Next, yeah? Yeah, okay. That's why Harvard mentioned that high score in social relationship and the community belonging, yeah? So this is, I want to mention that we have the significant altruistic society. So this is non-monetary resources, yeah, and showing strong sense, meaning, and purpose among population, and so on and so on. Yeah, next, yeah. Next. Sudah, okay. Now social life, yeah, community bond, and so on. Yeah, next, yeah. So in Zakat, so this is next, yeah. Next, yeah. So this is because of social protection. So little bit late. Next, yeah. Next, yeah. Okay, so Zakat and result, yeah. This is Zakat in Indonesia, in other countries also. But the result in Harvard study also mentioned that we have the social, we have the automatic, instant, yeah, social protection in Indonesia. So meaning, Professor Nazar mentioned earlier that we are the most significant philanthropist countries, yeah, as compared to others. This is Harvard studies, not Paramadina studies. This is Harvard. So I think for I want to summarize in bahasa, yeah, to express deeper than my second language, ya. Ya, Bapak Ibu sekalian, ya. Pada zakat ini potensinya besar. Zaman Gus Dur APBN itu 150 triliun income pajak. Zaman Gus Dur. Sekarang sudah 3.600, ya. Zakat pengeluarannya saya baca sudah 40 triliun. Ini sama dengan kira-kira 20 kabupaten kota. Dan Indonesia punya potensi besar karena masyarakatnya itu gotong royong. Nah, Indonesia akan menjadi dari 15 menjadi 5 terbesar di dunia, ya, dalam ekonomi karena pertumbuhannya 5%, di Jepang 0%. The growth in Japan 0%. Tapi Indonesia 5%, nanti kalau bisa dorong 6%, maka kita akan punya 2 kali lipat dalam waktu 6-7 tahun, ya. Jadi kita ini punya potensi. Ini saya mu'alaf dalam bidang ekonomi syariah, ya. Tapi saya bisa menghitung, ya. Dan yang paling penting, the suggestion from Prof. Nazaruddin, not only working focus on zakat. We go to the market, go to the suku, go to the syariah stock market, and so on and so on. That will increase volume and more mobilizing resource in syariah economy. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Prof. Didik, bring us the insight that Indonesians context life, yeah, our strong community culture, our sense of belonging, our gotong royong, and how zakat can function as a social protection. Thank you very much, Prof. Didik, for insightful presentations. Next, we move to the next presenter, Bapak Dr. Anas Iktoit. He will deliver deemed philanthropy as a catalyst for broad-based national and global resilience. 15 minutes, Prof. Please, your time.
اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي امري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this invitation. It's an honor to be here. I will focus geographically on the Middle East, since it's my area of specialty. And hopefully by doing that, we can generalize certain lessons that we can, not in many ways apply it to the Indonesian case, but perhaps take some of the Indonesian and Malaysian experiences and apply them to the Middle East context. I am a political economist, hence the focus mostly on this macro level of zakah and welfare across Middle Eastern states. So what I will talk about specifically is charity, not on the side, and zakat, not on the side of public finance, but rather how Middle Eastern states have historically financed welfare, which has included zakat at the heart of it at some point, but no longer does. So the basics claim here is threefold. One is that historically zakat was part of public revenue. Two, in the 20th century, it gets fragmented as modern tax states are built across the Arab world. And then three, today, zakat basically sits uneasily alongside formal social safety nets, sometimes reinforcing them and sometimes exposing their limits. So to explore these three claims, what I will do is that I will cover 7 or 6 broad topics. I will start with zakah as a historical fiscal instrument, move towards where zakah has sat since the establishment of the modern nation state across Middle Eastern states, and then look at how zakat is used in contemporary social policy and the structure of social safety nets across Middle Eastern states, points of friction between them and zakat, and then finally the emerging trends in the region. So starting with zakah as a historical fiscal instrument, well, historically zakah, just like in any other Muslim majority context, played an instrumental role in redistribution wealth towards the poor, debt relief, support for travelers and displaced people, and basic welfare for vulnerable groups. So in pre-modern and early modern periods across Middle Eastern states, zakah sat as a public revenue resource next to kharaj or land tax, customs, and various other fees. So quick examples: in Hijaz, zakah was collected on livestock, on caravans, and was collected by recognized officials, obviously on behalf of the Ottoman Empire. In Ottoman Syria, Palestine, and Iraq, zakah was collected on pastoral lands and herds, and there were specific collectors of zakah or public officials tasked with the collection of zakah in these regions. And in the 20th century in Saudi Arabia, before the advent of the oil age, zakah was also collected on livestock and also on other assets by the state, by the Saud family. So there is the historical aspect of zakah, not as a private charity, but rather as a public good and a public source of funding. Now, moving forward to the modern era, if you will, we see that this role of zakah has shifted mostly to the private sphere. So with the establishment of the modern tax state, obviously modern tax institutions focused less on zakah, which was unpredictable from the point of view of secular modern governance, and focused more on income taxes, on customs, on value-added taxes, and so on. So capturing or taxing economic activity rather than looking at zakah, which, if you want to really look at it from a macro perspective, it's a tax on wealth in certain ways. So as a result, we see that 2 broad themes and systems emerged across Middle Eastern states. One is a formal zakah policy, and this exists in a country like Saudi Arabia today and Kuwait, just as examples. And then second, which is the norm across Middle Eastern states, zakah as a private matter. Zakah that only exists in the private and religious spheres and not necessarily collected by the state, although there are some regulations that exist at that realm as well. So zakah is collected in this private sphere. The zakah is collected in mosques, in Islamic charities and NGOs, in informal local networks, and the government may recognize these bodies, may regulate them, but does not integrate zakah into tax codes or budgets or even any of the public affairs of these states. So I call this as fragmentation, and perhaps there is a reason behind describing it as fragmentation from a macro policy perspective, because historically zakah and taxes were more or less managed by states and integrated broadly as part of the fiscal architecture of these states or existing polities. And then second, modern taxes sit inside the state budget, but now obviously zakah sits parallel to the state budget. And even in states where zakah is part of the budget, there is still friction and overlap with how zakah is managed, like in Saudi Arabia and Kuwait. So there's a lot of consequences here. There is very little reliable information on how much zakah is collected, where it goes, and how it interacts with state programs, especially in the social policy realm. So if we move towards the social policy space, we can see that there are several ways that social policy systems exist across Middle Eastern states. And here I'm shifting to social policy because zakah is closely related to social policy offerings across Middle Eastern states today. And when zakah is discussed, it's discussed in the context of social welfare, of policies that governments provide. So some of these policies are, and they're not unique to Middle Eastern states, obviously they exist across the world, particularly in modern economic systems, cash transfer programs, subsidies, as well as labor market and pension support. Now, these are both conditional and conditional, so some people have to qualify for these services in order to receive payments. Subsidies have largely been rolled back in the vast majority of Arab states. And then also labor and market pension support is also being rolled back in the vast majority of Arab states. So why is this important? It's important because when we think of the Middle East, we tend to paint it with a broad brush as more or less a homogeneous region. But that is certainly not the case. As you would imagine, we have the wealthy side of the Middle East, and we have the side of the Middle East that is mostly developing. So we can, from a political economic perspective, we have oil exporters that tend to have accumulated significant amounts of wealth, and therefore they tend to have quite efficient social policy programs. And then on the other side, we have oil importing Middle Eastern states or Arab states. These states have been struggling economically for the better part of the last 30 years. A state like Egypt, for example, we see poverty rate in Egypt going from 10% in 2000, reaching more than 30% in 2025. We see income inequality. There was a recent study done by Piketty, who's an economist from France and is quite well known now for writing a book on income inequality or capital in the 21st century. He conducted a study to figure out which is the most unequal region in the world, which region has the highest disparity between income and wealth. And they found that the Middle East and North Africa was the most unequal region in the world. Not only between the top 10% and the bottom 90% of income, it also exists in the top 1% and the bottom 99%. And we also, when we segregate between wealthy oil-producing nations and high salaries there, and even poorer nations, if you will, and lower salaries, we still find this income inequality quite high. So it's important to discuss social policy in zakah in this context because of this background. So in the vast majority of states, zakah is pushed on the sidelines. And if we only have 6 to 7% realization rate of zakah, as here in Indonesia, I would say in the Middle East, this figure is probably also too high because of these factors. So with this in mind, parallel institutions have emerged. These institutions, for the vast majority of time, they sit outside of the state. They include domestic organizations, which are closely monitored by states across the region and also international organizations that sometimes have the freedom to operate in the region and most times they don't. An interesting aspect of Zakat in the region as well, and the provision of social policy and social welfare, is that Zakat-based institutions tend to have higher trust and legitimacy by recipients relative to state-based institutions. And this is because of this informal nature of Zakat, whereby individuals feel that their needs are being met rather than having to meet a bureaucratic benchmark for individuals to receive cash transfers or aid and so on. So with this large background, there are obviously emerging trends in the Zakat and social policy space across Middle Eastern states, and these are similar in the vast majority of the world. One is the digital Zakat platform, which was discussed earlier. And here, obviously, I think one of the most exciting developments in this space is financial technology and its implications, possible implications in the Islamic social finance space, which extends beyond Zakat to include many other aspects like Waqf and so on. I'm actually working with a PhD student of mine on Zakat and blockchain management, and we find this space to be very interesting. My student is focusing on Malaysia and Indonesia, but inshallah in the future we can expand it to the Middle East. So if you're interested in Zakat and blockchain and you would like to conduct a PhD, you know who to reach out to. Absolutely. So digital Zakat platforms is an interesting space. COVID-19 also showcased that when there is a shock in the system, there is significant response from communities. And this is something that we witnessed and it's quantified across Middle Eastern states. When COVID-19 hit and a large number and segments of society obviously fell below the poverty line, we saw that the response did not necessarily come from states. Yes, there was state response, but the vast majority of in the social aspect, the response came from other communities, mosques that mobilized, local communities, Zakat agencies, and so on, and they were able to fill this gap. So this is really good because it tells us that there is good mobilization at that front, but then also it's something that could also be a weakness and a hindrance. Why? Because we don't want Zakat to be a responsive tool. We want Zakat to be a sustained architecture. And this is something that the post-19 era across many Middle Eastern states, we're still living in that sort of mindset where Zakat responds to an emergency and not necessarily is there for the sustainable term. Closing remarks, what I want to say about Zakat across the Middle East is that it's neither a relic of pre-modern governance nor a simple charitable add-on. It is an active component of how welfare, legitimacy, and state power are negotiated across the Middle East. Even though it's not usually on the front pages, it does exist. There are many questions that still need to be answered, such as how can states coordinate with Zakat actors without hollowing out the religious legitimacy? Can Zakat be harnessed to strengthen safety nets for informal workers, which tends to be a major gap? And then what forms of oversight and transparency would satisfy both finance ministries and as well as religious authorities, as well as the communities that usually collect taxes? With that, I will finish. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Inas Iqtaid, for bringing us the insight. How is the shifting of Zakat from the history as a public revenue to the modern practice, mostly managed outside of the state, and how is the implication as Zakat become the community social mobilization of funds. Okay, thank you very much for Dr. Anas. And we move to the last but not least speaker, Bapak Sultan Emir Hidayat PhD, who will speak on integrating Zakat within the national Sharia economy ecosystem. 15 minutes, Doctor, please.
Thank you, Professor Nur Hidayah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah la haula wala quwata illa billah. Amma ba'du, rabbi syrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers, BAZNAS, Win Sharif Hidayatullah, and Ministry of Religious Affairs for having me here. I would like to talk about integrating Zakah within the national Sharia economy ecosystem. Next slide, please. Again, please. As you know, Alhamdulillah, by the grace of Allah, our country, Indonesia, now has been regarded as one of the most improving Islamic economic financial hubs in the world. You can see that from global rankings published by many publishers, Indonesia at the moment, Alhamdulillah, is ranked among the top 5 at least, yeah, in terms of the Islamic economic ecosystem, including the State of the Global Islamic Economy report. This, if you look back, let's say about 10 years ago or 6 years ago, we were not in the top 10 even. Yeah. And our government, yeah, including the central bank, of course, yeah, although central bank is not part of the government, regularly support the development of Islamic economy. For example, our central bank, Bank Indonesia, regularly computes the contribution of Sharia compliant business activities and financing into our GDP, which stood around 47% at the moment, yeah, according to the latest data. And then we are the only country that implements mandatory halal certification, which is implemented gradually. Yeah. Phase 1 is now ongoing, yeah, for the food. Until 2026 will be for the cosmetic and pharmacy. And our halal product export, Alhamdulillah, also grew significantly for the past 6 years, which grew around 7% for about 6 years. Yeah. And then our Islamic financial assets, even though it is still far away from the potential, but also has been showing a positive trend, yeah, for the past 5 years at least. Yeah. But we need to remember that when we talk about Islamic finance, if you want to evaluate Indonesia, you cannot evaluate based on the Islamic banking, because many people in Indonesia, they are still unbankable. They are still unbankable. So yes, our Islamic banking market share is only 7.4%, but don't look at Islamic banking. Look at, for example, Islamic capital market, non-banking financial institution, which include also fintech, and also the most important thing is, for example, Islamic cooperative. In Indonesia, we have more than 5,000 BMTs, which is Islamic cooperative operating in Indonesia. Actually, only God knows the exact number. This is 5,000, is only estimated number. And which combine between social and commercial finance under one platform. And if we include this figure, KNIKS, our National Committee for Islamic Economy and Finance, plus also the market capitalization of Sharia compliance share in Islamic capital market, we estimate the market share of Islamic finance in the country already reaching 30%, actually. Yeah. And then when we talk about zakah today, yes, it is also still very far from the potential, but it shows good trend. Yeah. Year on year, it grew 68% at least. And now the collection around 40 trillion has been mentioned by Prof. Didik, yeah, before. Yeah, even though the potential is more than 320 trillion rupiah. And when we talk about how we develop Islamic economy and finance, it's not only the job of central government. At the moment, in the 31 provinces, out of 38 provinces of Indonesia, they have formed or established the Provincial Committee for Islamic Economy and Finance. Next slide, please. This is just to strengthen that one of the rankings. We are at number 3 after Malaysia and Saudi Arabia. Next. Yeah, our approach in developing the Islamic economy and finance is an ecosystem approach, in which it started from the bottom. If you look there is Mustahik, the recipient of zakah. They will be helped and assisted by social finance, by zakah, productive zakah, sodaqah, and also awqaf, yeah, productive awqaf, yeah, where they are given the zakah not only for consumptive purposes, but also for productive purposes. To start small business, Dr. Hasbi regularly spread, for example, every day the BAZNAS team, yeah, how productive zakah can improve people's life. For example, before getting the productive zakah, his monthly income probably around 1.3 million rupiah, but after 6 million and got assistance from BAZNAS and started opening micro business, for example, Z Chicken or Z Auto or whatever, many Z Coffee, yeah? And then their income now improved to, let's say, 2 million rupiah per month, until they get out from poverty line and then they become muzaki later on, yeah. And you know, now when we talk about zakah in our long-term national development plan, or we call it here RPJPN or RPGPN 2025-2045, if you look at the policy direction related to Islamic economy and finance, there is in the second direction, which is enhancing Islamic social finance role in addressing poverty alleviation and I cannot see here, yeah, and economic disparities. So now we cannot say that zakah or Islamic economy is an alternative to the conventional economy. It is already part of the mainstream agenda because it has been included in our long-term national development plan. Next again. Of course, when in the long-term national development zakah is there, yeah, social finance is there, also in our medium-term development plan, yeah, we have even national priority 2, which include Islamic economy there, with the target to overtake Malaysia by 2029 as the first ranking, yeah, in the global state of the global ranking of Islamic economy and finance. And the contribution of Islamic economy to our GDP, which is now around 47, targeted to be 56% by 2029. And there are 5 priority programs in our RPGMN, and one of them is about zakah, priority program number 5. There is also target, yeah, BAZNAS, our National Development Planning Agency, monitor this target, yeah, in addition to 5 other priority programs. Next, yeah, these are the among the 5 at the national level, 3 of them are cascaded into provincial level and also municipal levels. If you see there, the 3 levels at the national government, for example, like number of halal certified products, at the moment 2.17 million, it has to reach 7 million per year by 2029. And then also for the Islamic financial asset over our PDB, 2023 around 42.67%, it should reach 51.42% by 2029. And our zakah, infak, sedekah per our GDP at the moment around 0.155% in 2023. Yeah. By 2029, it should reach 0.208 of our total GDP. And out of these 3, they are cascaded into provincial level, 3 only. Yeah. But in the zakah aspect, the measurement is not based on PDB, but based on National Zakah Index. And Alhamdulillah, according to latest information, maybe Dr. Hasbi can correct me if I'm wrong, 16 provinces, yeah, 16 provinces, and 171 municipalities, regencies, and cities across Indonesia have included IZN, National Zakah Index, as part of their regional development target and regional development and put also in regional development information system. So you can see how zakah is very important in Indonesia now, and it is measured as the performance of regional governments, both at provincial and also municipalities level. Next. Yeah, and as you see here, from the long-term national development plan into, of course, the medium-term development plan and the vision and mission of our current president, they are aligned. They are aligned, and then to make it more detailed and to make it more practical, yeah, we already finalized the master plan, the new master plan. Prof. Ghaffar was involved in the earlier master plan, and now we already have the second master plan. 2025-2029, detailing who is in charge, who is responsible for each item in the RPJMN, in the National Medium-Term Development Plan, with more detail. Yeah. Next again. Yeah. Again. And using social finance, including Zakat, actually can help the country also to achieve sustainable development goals. Yeah, these are only some example, and I think previous speakers also has highlighted this aspect. Yeah, at least in terms of poverty alleviation and of food security, yeah, or no hunger, for example, and can be extended to other SDGs as well. Next, yeah, and again, how when we can combine the Zakat and also other funds which are used to alleviate poverty, because there is also village fund, there's also social assistance from the government. Yeah, if we can combine, there are several municipalities or agencies that have implemented this mixed mechanism very well. Not to mention only just example, there are many actually. For example, Kabupaten Ciamis, yeah, they are very excellent in this mixing. Yeah, how they can use this various funds in poverty alleviation. Next, and the last, again, it has been highlighted by previous speakers as well. Digitalization is very important, but now in Indonesia, don't worry. If you want to donate Zakat, infak, sedekah, just use your mobile. Every mobile banking you have, it provides you with the easy access to donate. And in fact, for example, in one of the Islamic banks, after you transact, they always ask you, you want to donate? And they put the amount. As what? Zakah, infak, sedekah, or awqaf. They like propose to you. But if you are stingy, so you will say no all the time. Yeah? But of course, you cannot say no all the time. After you look at several times, okay, at least 20,000 at least. So that's all from me. Yeah, it's, just to compliment other speakers. Thank you very much. Wabillahi taufiq wa hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Who has told us that Zakat has been aligned with the national strategy, RPJPNN, and the Astacita of our President Prabowo, and positioning Zakat as a pillar for halal industry development, poverty alleviation, and Islamic economic Indonesian's leadership. Okay, we almost run out of time, so we will open the question and answer session for 15 minutes. So maybe 3 questions. Yeah, Bapak, and then Ibu, and then the 3. Please, yeah. Please introduce, yeah, the name and also the institutions.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
My name is Dani Budianto. I am from BAZNAS, BAZNAS in Kota Tangerang. Thank you for the speakers. But from your explanation just now, I didn't see yet the explanation of the speakers on how to equalize, for example, in Zakat, because we categorize there is a distribution and also empowerment. For example, that now talking about Zakat, of course we have to understand the roadmap and the very substantial of Zakat itself. It's how to transform Muzaki, the beneficiaries, like a pyramid just now you mentioned from Sultan Amir, and this is for the all the speakers. Yeah, the substantial is to change our mustahik beneficiaries to be a muzaki. That's the very principles. I didn't see just now explanation from our brothers from Malaysia and also the speaker. For example, how to equalize, yeah, the portion of distribution and also the empowerment. Now we realize that empowerment, this is the what it calls a means. There's a means through the program. In BAZNAS we have so many Z program. chicken, Z
Excuse
coffee,
me,
Z...
Bapak,
Yeah.
could you please shorten your question?
Yes. So, do you have any concept, the brothers? For example, there is a policy in your country, maybe, on how to equalize the portion of the distribution and empowerment. Otherwise, we just think that all the zakat is only distribution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, please, Ibu.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi.
Good afternoon. My name is Basmawati Haris. I'm from UIN Sunan Kalijaga, Yogyakarta, and BAZNAS Kabupaten Bulukumba, South Sulawesi. To speaker, thank you for taking the time to speak with us today. I'm interested in understanding how Lembaga Zakat Selangor to empower ASNAF through education support, capital assistance, and entrepreneurship training. This program seems designed not only to provide short-term help, but also to help family build long-term independence. My question is, what extent to Lembaga Zakat Selangor education program, capital support, and entrepreneurship training help us ASNAF move to poverty, or maybe from mustahik to musaki? Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you to all speaker. Before I went to introduce myself, my name is Gema Gunawan. I am student in University of Singapore Bangsa Karawang. My majority is Islamic education. So actually, I went to asking for Mr. Anas. Considering the growing need for cross-border solidarity, is international collaboration more effective than local solidarity? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Because of time, so we only 3 questions. The first one from about the equalized zakat portion between distribution and empowerment. Who will answer? And then the second one, Bu Basmawati, maybe Bapak Komaruzaman will answer. And then the third one about the cross borders, Bapak Dr. Anas Ikhtiat will answer. The first one, maybe Prof. Gafar.
Okay, thank you for the question. The first question with regards to what are basically the balance between the distribution and also collection. I think it's more on the balance between consumptive and productive. Yeah. So I mean that's. I mean I think it's there's no right answer for that. It depends on context. I mean I can only quote from the experience of Zakat Selangor. Obviously we have the aspiration from the slide to exit from 2023 to 2025, cumulatively about 15,000 ASNAF. That's our aspirational target, 15,000 ASNAF families to be exited. That's to share that we are on 85 to 90% of the aspirational target so far, and we have less than a month to go in 2025. So it's still an aspirational target for us. But the thing is, for Zakat Selangor, traditionally, I think with all other Zakat organization, the ratio between consumptive and productive will be more on consumptive rather than productive. But how we do it, because in many years we already have that imbalance between consumptive, more in consumptive rather than productive, but we want to pursue more people to exit ASNAF. So we have to, in the future going forward, especially in our 2026 plan, we started to shift some of the funds that it's been allocated for consumption. Right now it's about 70-30. We're shifting about 5 or 10% of the consumption funding into productive, because it will not matter if we have aspirational target, we're not properly funded to develop ASNAF, to give more fund to our development program. So we started that shift when we realized that it's pretty difficult for us to work on that ratio, 70-30, but we have that aspirational target. That's one of the lessons learned that we have at Zakat Selangor. So we have to do it. So we have to shift the allocation more from consumptive to productive. So we have to done top down. Okay, probably Prof can.
Okay. Looking at the empowerment, you are looking at the social or economic empowerment. So we have to, right, to empower, socially empower you, and also economically also want to empower the Muzaki, right? So from that perspective, we have the program. I have involved in many occasions with the Zakat Authority in Malaysia. They have different program. So here is, you are looking at the program. So if, let's say, you want to empower socially, to empower you, so we have the program for that, for social perspective. Also, if you want to empower economically, to empower you, so you have the program. For example, you want to empower the knowledge. So we ask the Zakat Authority to give us the program where we can invite the Ustads or Ustazah to give a talk with the community, to empower you inside the inner side of you, the inner side aspect. But on the other hand, we also want to empower you economically. So we use the program where the program is, we want to help the people, the ASNAP, involved in the economic activities. What sort of economic activities? So we have to focus on that. So in the one state, they focus on the barber, and also want to focus on the tailor, because this is the basics, right? Because in Malaysia, the barber is monopolized by non-Muslim. Okay, so we train the ASNAP, okay, to be the barber, to create the barber shop, and then we provide them the capital. The capital come from Waqaf, and then the working capital from Zakat. What I've mentioned by Brother Kamal Zaman is about the productive capital, working capital. And then we also concentrate on the detailer, because this is the basic. Everyone want to have the good attire, right? So we provide them, we train them, not only train, but also want to do the practice. So then they ask them to open the shop and then sell the product to the community. So this is a program that we have to. So basically, we want to embed that in the governance, right? The governance of the Zakat institution in such a way that the program should be focused on the education, on the economic, and how to empower them socially and also economically. Wallah alam.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the policy, yeah. In terms of the policy, yes. This is the internal policy, yes. The internal policy in the Zakat Authority, they had the policy on that, because the policy is to help them to become what later on become the payers, not to. So this towards the end. This is the aim, right? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Ghaffar. Next, Dr. Ilyas, please.
Thank you. If I understand the question correctly, it's about local versus international philanthropic organizations. Yeah, well, I mean, the obvious answer here is particularly of zones of crisis and conflict and natural disasters and so on. If that's what was in the back of your mind when you asked the question, obviously a combination of both local and international organizations would be the best approach. But this is something that already exists. So if we look at the humanitarian response to the ongoing situation in Gaza, local organizations were completely demobilized and they themselves became a target. And this was a massive gap that was then quickly filled by international organizations, including many international organizations that work in the Islamic social space. So it would certainly seem to be the best approach. Now, from my observation across various Middle Eastern states, international organizations, particularly those that provide relief, that are part of the Islamic social finance ecosystem at large, these organizations tend to focus on short-term relief, responsive work. It's seldom that you find developmental or infrastructure projects that are funded by such institutions. In cases, again, like Gaza, because it's the talk of the hour and has been for a while, the vast majority of that sort of infrastructural work and developmental work across Palestine was done by European donors, just as an example. Islamic social capital was important, but it was important for supporting those when it comes to food security or those who are on the poverty line or right below the poverty line. But the vast majority of the infrastructure and development space was funded by international donors, mostly Europeans. So perhaps this is something that can also be thought about as a pivot towards sustainable donations and also sustainable work in the Islamic social space.
Thank you very much. Prof. Didik.
Not answer, yeah, just statement, maybe answering the first question. Mostly of most Indonesian Muslim cannot perform, cannot fulfill, not able to fulfill 5 principle Islamic, 5 pillar of Islam, because cannot perform zakat and hajj, because poor, yeah. So to strengthen zakat, we have to strengthen the market, the economy. So we have to have more and more muzaki, yeah, rather than mustahik. Yeah. Thank you.
I will answer to you in bahasa Indonesia because you are pimpinan BAZNAS Kota Tangerang ya. Jadi di dalam list IZN yang dikirim Pak Asbi ini, Kota Tangerang itu udah masuk loh, yang sudah mengisi IZN. Pasti bakalan sibuk nanti. Tepuk tangan dulu buat Kota Tangerang dulu nih. Dengan memasukkan IZN ke dalam SIPD-nya, nanti akan dimonitor Pak. Berapa orang yang sudah, kan salah satu komponen dari IZN itu bagaimana mentransform mustahik menjadi muzaki. Makin banyak Bapak programnya produktif, makin bagus jadi mustahik menjadi muzaki, Bapak dapat award lagi. Tepuk tangan buat Bapak.
Thank you very much for all our speakers. If I may conclude that zakat must shift from charity to strategy, and maqasid must remain the compass, and zakat can and must drive inclusive and sustainable economic growth. So the future of zakat requires 3 imperatives: integration and partnership across institution, region, sector, and national development framework. And then the second one, the innovation in governance, digital platform, financial model, and impact measurement. And also the last one is the intention and implementation to ensure that the modern system of zakat remain grounded in maqasid, justice and human dignity. So if we can unite these 3 pillars, zakat in Indonesia as well as in global level, will not only serve the present but could serve our future resilient, prosperous, and equitable global future. Thank you very much. Please allow me as the committee of ICONZ BAZNAS and Win Jakarta to convey our highest appreciation for all our 5 distinguished speakers, Mr. Komaruzaman bin Omar, Prof. Abdul Ghafar Ismail, Prof. Didik Jerahbini, and also Dr. Anas Iktiat, and last not least, Bapak Sultan Emir Hidayat, PhD. And please allow us to conclude and end this session. Let's recite all with kafaratul majlis. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika asyhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Wal afu minkum. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We kindly invite to stay on the stage. Alhamdulillah, we have reached the conclusion of plenary session 1, the future of Zakat strategic design, governance, and global resilience. On behalf of the organizing committee, we extend our sincere gratitude to our moderator, Professor Nur Hidayah, SAG, SEMA, MA, PhD, and our distinguished speakers. Before we move to our next session, we would like to present a token of appreciation to our speakers and moderator. We invite our organizing committee representative to present the token of appreciation. Appreciation token will be handed over by Dan of the Faculty of Economics and Business UIN Syarif Hidayatullah Jakarta, Profesor Dr. Ibnu Kizam, MSI AKCA, and Dr. Yogi and also Dr. Rizkon. Please join us on the stage.
Enggak, aku nggak perlu nyebutin siapa yang pertama ngasih ke siapa, nggak usah. Nggak usah.
Please stay still. We want to make a group photo with all speakers and also moderator and the leaders.
Oh, adlibs dulu. Baru setelah adlibs, mari saksikan. Oh, sudah.
Once again, thank you very much to our distinguished speakers and also moderator. With that, the conclude from the plenary session 1. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, in the midst of our conference session, we would like to once again acknowledge our sponsor, whose contribution enable meaningful dialogue, knowledge exchange, and international collaboration throughout ICONZ 2025. The continuous support from BSI Maslahat, PT Bank Syariah Indonesia Tbk, BAZNAS Rumah Zakat Indonesia, PT Transportasi Jakarta, and Indonesia Deposit Insurance Corporation atau LPS plays as a vital role in ensuring the successful execution of this forum and the strengthening the impact of zakat governance at the global level. On behalf of the organizing committee, we extend our deepest appreciation for your trust and continued support. Ladies and gentlemen, let us now watch a video presentation on BAZNAS response and assistance program in Sumatra.
Di tengah duka besar yang melanda Aceh, Sumatera Utara, dan Sumatera Barat, ribuan keluarga masih berjuang memulai hari dengan keterbatasan. Rumah yang terendam, akses yang terputus, makanan dan air yang Di tengah duka besar yang melanda Aceh, Sumatera Utara, dan Sumatera Barat, ribuan keluarga masih berjuang memulai hari dengan keterbatasan. Rumah yang terendam, akses yang terputus, makanan dan air bersih sulit didapat, serta banyak dari mereka yang juga kehilangan orang tercinta. BAZNAS hadir sejak hari pertama, menguatkan mereka yang terluka. Pendirian dapur umum, ribuan porsi makanan siap santap disalurkan setiap harinya. Logistik pangan dan sembako dibagikan untuk memenuhi kebutuhan mereka. Layanan kesehatan didirikan di tempat-tempat terdampak, membantu para pengungsi yang sakit juga terluka.
Hingga hari ini, BAZNAS telah memberikan bantuan kepada 27.450 penerima manfaat di Aceh. 11.847 penerima manfaat di Sumatera Utara dan 30.526 penerima manfaat di Sumatera Barat.
Terima kasih masyarakat Indonesia yang sudah turut serta dalam membantu saudara-saudara kita di Sumatera. Mari terus bersama BAZNAS kirimkan doa dan dukungan terbaik agar mereka mampu bangkit dari bencana ini.
After 30 p.m., as we will resume the program with the keynote speech. Sekali lagi Bapak Ibu, kami persilakan untuk bisa menikmati jamuan hidangan santap siang yang berada di area pelataran. Dan silakan untuk bisa menikmati santap siang di area outdoor yang sudah kami sediakan. Boleh makan di dalam nggak? Oh, oke. Dan bagi Bapak Ibu yang ingin atau akan melaksanakan ibadah sholat zuhur, bisa menggunakan masjid yang berada di area Student Center. Gedungnya tepat berada di belakang Auditorium Harun Nasution. Sekali lagi, bagi Bapak Ibu yang akan melaksanakan ibadah sholat zuhur, kami persilakan untuk bisa menggunakan masjid yang berada di gedung Student Center. Gedungnya tepat berada di belakang Auditorium Harun Nasution. Dan kita akan kembali lagi memulai acara pada pukul 13.30. Dan kami harapkan kehadiran Bapak Ibu tepat waktu. Atas perhatian dan juga pengertiannya kami ucapkan terima kasih dan sampai jumpa pada pukul 13.30. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.